I'm an attorney here in Dallas. Thank you, Hilda. And I'm actually the National Legal Advisor to LULAC. And very honored to be in that position. Domingo's not going to be able to make it in today, so I'm going to go ahead and cover for him as the MC. So we're going to go ahead and get started right away with our first wonderful guest, Judge Maricela Moore. She's the presiding judge of the 162nd Judicial District Court of Dallas County and the local administrative district judge. She previously served as the presiding judge of the Central Jury Room. And in 2019, Judge Moore was named by the American Board of Trial Advocates as the Dallas Judge of the Year. Judge Moore received her Bachelor's in Science from Boston College, magna cum laude, and her law degree from George Washington University, National Law Center in Washington, D.C. And most recently, Judge Moore was elected to the 5th Court of Appeals, and she's already had her investiture. And we want to give everybody let's get together and give a warm welcome to Judge Maricela Moore.
Buenos dias, good morning, hello everyone. So Aaron told me that I can take as much time as I want, so I have about an hour and a half planned. I hope you have coffee and enough menudo to last you. Good morning. First of all, let me just say thank you. It is such an awesome honor to be back here, and for many of you, I don't want to call out ages, I'll tell you, the first time I stood on this stage was 12 years ago. I had a few less wrinkles, and I was running for judge for the first time. I don't know if y'all remember this. Linda, I think you gave me and James, y'all gave me a meet and greet at your house in 2011, and I had the audacity to run for judge in that year, and many of those that are in this room walked for me and campaigned for me and made calls for me and did all of those things. And to bring the story to today, I did not win in 2012, but we made awesome movement within the community recognizing the need to have diversity within the court system. So again in 2016, with all of your support and your encouragement and with the desire that you had to bring diversity to the courts, I ran again, and I did win. The 162nd District Court became the first Latino ever to serve on a civil district court in Dallas County, which is more a comment about the power of this platform that the community puts together to allow people who desire to serve the community a voice, a microphone, an opportunity to introduce ourselves and to get all of us together, hello, so that we can do that. So then when I ran in 2016 and I did become the civil district court judge, that led me, as Eric mentioned, to be elected by all 35 judges to become the first Latino ever to serve as a local administrative district judge for Dallas County. I don't know if that was because I was the only one that would step up to the plate during COVID, and worked with our wonderful Elva and the other commissioners to keep our courts running. It's not often publicized in the news, but Dallas County Civil District Courts were noted as one of the highest performing court systems in the entire state of Texas during COVID. We were one of the courts with the fewest cases in backlog. As a matter of fact, we had fewer cases pending during COVID than pre-COVID, not often noted. And all of that is because, like I said, there is a community that desires leadership. And so I just want to say thank you. And I don't think that we oftentimes as public officials get the opportunity to simply say thank you. So a couple things have happened since then. I was elected in November to serve on the 5th District Court of Appeals, place 4, so now I'm moving up to the Court of Appeals. I was remarried last October during COVID. You know, everyone got a dog, a husband, a new house, something happened. Well, I got a puppy, and I got a husband. I did not get a baby. We're not doing that. My mom's already said, no hay más. No más niños. But anyway, so I'm going to be Maricela Breedlove. You'll see that, and that is who I will be representing you and our community on the Court of Appeals, and I look forward to doing so. I was kidding about an hour and a half. I actually only have a couple minutes. But I just want to say a couple of things about the importance of what you're doing here, other than eating Chorizo Menudo. And I remember, Joe's Bakery and 1 in a Million, and going to these kinds of breakfasts with my parents. My mom was the first Latina ever elected countywide in Travis County in 1984. And so I grew up with this kind of community engagement. And it's pretty awesome to see the grassroots energy that continues, even to today. The fact that you guys have other things to do on this morning. There are things that you have to do, your list of chores and so forth, but the fact that you bring the energy together in a room to have a cup of coffee and to encourage your public officials to do the right thing, to be stewards of your desire for good leadership, and to have the energy to do what we do is pretty awesome. And I just thank you for it. And I hope that you'll continue to do this. I appreciate Eric, and I appreciate Elba and Domingo and all of those who bring this opportunity for community every month so that we can sit down and have a cup of coffee and talk about, what really needs to be done, or do you know what we really miss? And I'll tell you, yesterday I was at the Arts District Mansion, as they now call it, and I was witnessing the investiture of Maria Aceves, and I don't know if you know that, but she was elected a civil district court judge, and so I'm sitting there watching her being sworn in, and I think, I tried this in 2011, it didn't work, that's okay, I tried again in 2016, and we won, and then yesterday I'm watching another Latina being sworn in, and none of that is possible without the proven leadership of the community. And she thanks you, and I thank you, and all of us who are going to speak to you thank you, and I just urge you, please continue to have that cup of coffee and remind us how important our work is to not only you, but to the futures of the Marias and the futures of the other generations that will come after us, so that we have continued representation and leadership within our court system. It is so important. Thank you so much. Have a great weekend. Enjoy this beautiful weather, and I do appreciate you. Thank you.
Anyone have any questions for Judge Moore? Someone right over here, somebody.
Uh-oh.
I don't know if you
Give me a softball.
I don't think it needs to mic.
Who let him in the room?
It's a softball.
Oh, gosh. Of course, yes. Hola.
Could you like?
Well, welcome and congratulations on, breaking the ceiling by becoming an appellate court judge in this district. First in the history of North Texas, I believe. Is that correct?
No, so this is actually a really great fact also. So Justice Denise Garcia is now on the court, and Justice Batida Kipnis. So there's a possibility that we'll have an all-Latina panel, because you have a panel of 3 judges. I will tell you, there will be really good shoes on that panel. I'll just say, we all learn from Elba the best. So if that happens, of course, we'll invite you guys to come and take a look. It'll be a fun day.
And I guess, like anything else, we're lacking in not only Hispanics, but Hispanic females in the judiciary at almost all levels. Not only at the state level, but at the federal level in particular. With a changing political administration, we need to have people prepared to be able to be selected to go to the federal level. So if you could enlighten us about that process a little bit, so we all should know that when you vote, you'll make a difference. But if you don't vote, we'll never have somebody like Marisela Moore be appointed or be elected to a position like yourself.
Well, I think that is a really good point. So all of these opportunities that we have on the bench certainly do make us more available for future opportunities. I mean, there's definitely a need for diversity within the federal court system, and that is something that the Hispanic National Bar Association looks at, and I have my eye on and things of that. I mean, it's no secret that that is something that we need. What really happens in that room, boy, I would love to know as well. But I will agree with you that if we don't have good, qualified, diverse Latinos, Latinas on our district court judges, then we'll never be prepared when that opportunity arises. And so certainly the work you all do here in electing us and giving us that experience makes it much more likely that we'll see diversity at the federal court system as well.
Hilda, how are you?
Good morning. Hello. Good to see you.
Congratulations again. Thank you.
you.
I just have a question concerning enforcement.
We have a lot of people go to court, the judges rule in their favor, but what about enforcement? How do we handle that? How
Okay, so when you say the word enforcement, what are you referring to?
I would say like a TRO or a 50-50 parent-child relationship, things like that.
So that may be a little bit of a family court question, which would be outside of my bailiwick. But I'll tell you, in my court, people follow my orders. But that's the civil district court system. I'm small, but I'm mighty. So I don't really have a problem with enforcement. Tex knows, right? Tex, you've been in my court.
So do you,
Thank you very much. Yes, he does. He does it with a smile on his face.
so do you hold people accountable with contempt of court? And incarcerate them or fine them?
Well, so that's a really good question. And by the way, I think this is also a great opportunity to just ask questions about the court system and how they work. Like I always say, I have the honor of presiding over the court, but it belongs to you all. So the way that it works is when I enter an order, if someone says, hey, Judge, they're violating your order, the next step is to enter what is called a show cause order, which means the person that allegedly has violated, I make them come to court and tell me why they have not violated my order. Now, if they don't come to court in the show cause hearing, then I would send out a constable or someone that would bring them to court, and at that point in time, yes, there would be the potential for incarceration. But in my opinion, I tread lightly when it comes to those matters because, people are humans, and I don't think that people necessarily violate orders just because they don't want to. They may have a job. They may have something going on, and so I think that it's a better practice to bring them to court and say, look, we're all human. Tell me what's going on. What is it that is causing you not to do whatever you're required to do by my order? And if we can work with you, that's fine. If you simply say, don't follow the law, well then clearly there needs to be some kind of a repercussion at that
The
point.
second question is, would you consider an academy to train or to inform the community? I know that when Faith Johnson was DA, she did a Citizens Academy, and we went for like 8 weeks on different nights. Well, would you consider something like that to educate us?
100% yes. One of the things that I think is most concerning about our system right now is we have zero civics education that is required in our schools.
Yes.
And I actually work with the Avoda Foundation because the Avoda Foundation actually funds civics education within schools, but you've hit on a point that I think needs to be resounded within our community, which is why is it that we don't teach our young students and even our community leaders and our community participants about how the system works, why things happen, because oftentimes I do see people come to our courts that have no idea how they work. And I'll tell you just a really quick, sweet story just to end this comment. So, one of the last things I was able to do as a civil district court judge, I had a lawyer come to me and say, Judge, I've been fostering these 2 children for about a year, and we're about to go through the adoption process. And these 2 children, they were 9 and 7 years old, were just scared out of their minds of the courts. And why is that? Every time they went to court, something bad happened. Their parents were taken away. Their foster parents were changed, and they did not want to come to court for the prove-up. And I said, you know what? Let's do it in my courtroom. Tell them they can bring whomever they want. We'll make it fun. We'll teach about the process. I kid you not. They brought 24 young children, all the parents, all of the teachers. My courtroom was filled. And I took the opportunity and I just sat with them and I said, I'm Judge Mahdi. My kids' friends call me Miss Mahdi because I think it's more inviting. And I said, I'm Judge Mahdi. And I said, now I'm going to ask you a question. Whose courtroom is this? And someone said, it's yours. And I said, absolutely not. Whose courtroom is this? And they said, it's Governor Zappa's. And I said, oh, please no. No, it's not. Whose courtroom is this? And they said, well, I don't know. And I said, this is your courtroom. This courtroom belongs to you. I have the honor of presiding over it, but it belongs to you. And I took that opportunity to invite them into, and let's talk about how it works and why you shouldn't be afraid to come here. This is the room where your rights are protected, where you can get justice. And so I had the ability to change the perspective of these beautiful young children. And, I let them all come up on my bench, and they all took pictures, and I said, one day you can be up here. This is all yours. It's all yours. And so what you're saying is something that I clearly endorse, and I would do more than whatever you need to be an advocate for teaching our community what the courts really do stand for. They are the power of the people. And like I said at the beginning, and I'll end with this because I did not intend to take this long, Eric, I apologize. I only have the privilege, and it is a professional honor and privilege. I went to Boston College, I went to GW Law School, I worked at Baker McKenzie, I could be doing many things with my law degree. But you give me the ability and the honor to serve in the judiciary. And so whatever I can do to help to educate and to bring the community into our courts, yes please, and let's work together. I'd be more than happy to be an ally in that project. Thank you so much. Y'all have a wonderful morning.
Thank you so much, Judge. And when you put a mic in my hand, I'm going to talk about voting, right? Thank you, Judge. Maricela has been truly a trailblazer. She's got to run because she's going to visit someone in the hospital right now. So I want to give her one last thank you and goodbye. But as she ascends to the 5th Court of Appeals, as she goes up on the appellate court, we lose a wonderful, incredible district judge. And with that, we only have 2 or 3 Latinos. Of the 44 district and county judges, we have 2 or 3 Latinos. That's got to change, folks, and it's got to change by our voting numbers. We've got to increase the numbers of voting. We're 43% of Dallas County. Yeah, we've got 2 or 3 Latinos of those 44 spots. Doesn't make sense. We need to change that. But I'm going to jump off the spot there. I'm going to introduce our next guest, Michelle Long-Krause, who is the chair of the DART Board of Directors. Michelle Long-Krause was appointed in 2014 by the Dallas City Council to represent Dallas on the DART Board of Directors and was elected to serve as DART's current board chair in October of 21. She wanted me to mention that she's a terrible dancer, but a very good comedian actress, as I mentioned earlier. So let's give a warm welcome to Miss Michelle Long-Krause.
Thank you very much, Eric. And I would also want to thank Domingo and Elba for allowing me this opportunity to speak with you about DART and my path to being the first Latina chair of the DART Board of Directors. I graduated with a BA in political science from the University of Texas at Arlington, got my law degree from the SMU Law School, and I knew I wanted to help injured workers and injured children, so I became a workers' comp lawyer and a guardian ad litem. So about 60 to 65% of my clients are Spanish-speaking only, and you know how taken advantage of some of our workers, our trabajadores, are, especially if they're undocumented, which they are. They still work and they still get injured and they still need help, and they are so vulnerable, and that is one thing that I wanted to change and be a part of. So my road to becoming chair started when I was the associate municipal judge of City of Dallas. I got to know Judge Bonacil Jones when she became a council member. She called me one Thanksgiving holiday and asked me, "Are you interested in being considered for the DART board?" I didn't have to think about it. I said yes. I understand how important it is for people who look like us to be at the decision-making table. And so I said enthusiastically yes, and I've been on the board and worked my way up to becoming chair. So one thing that I do want for you to know is that my full name is Michelle Salinas Long-Krause. I am Mexican, Chinese, Japanese, Native Hawaiian. I am married to a German, Polish, Scotch-Irish, French guy. So our kids represent the United Nations. I like to consider myself a China Latina. And proud to serve both communities in all the volunteer work that I do. I've been active on every single level of bar boards. From the local level, I was the first Hispanic to ever be elected as a director to the Dallas Bar Board of Directors.
Nice.
Took many times, very hard to get it done. I was also the first Asian American female to be elected to the State Bar Board of Directors. And I also served in the House of Delegates and the Board of Governors at the American Bar Association. So I bring my views, my community's challenges to each level of volunteer service, and that's what each one of you need to do, is bring your views, represent your community, go and be a leader. We need you at the decision-making table. So, let me tell you a little bit about DART. So it covers 700 square miles. That is our service area. It is large. We have 13 member cities, Dallas and 12 other suburban cities. So one of the questions I always get asked is, why don't you have service to Arlington? Why don't you have service to Mesquite? That's because they're not a member city. We are not allowed to provide service outside our service area. So if you know any decision makers in Arlington or Mesquite or Grand Prairie, tell them to join DART. You're always looking for new cities. So what I wanted to also talk to you about is the seismic changes that are happening at DART. This is not your grandfather's DART. All right, so we recently hired the first female CEO for DART. Since 1983, we have never had a female CEO, and she's Asian American. Nadine Lee is her name, and she reflects the changes that are happening at DART. The more inclusivity, the more diversity that you will see happening at DART is reflected in just the faces of our CEO and the chair. I mean, 2 Asian American females. That is the first nationwide ever. So we are at the forefront of diversity, I'm proud to say. Of course, Dallas appointees bring all the diversity, I will have to say. But it's an amazing diversity. All the suburban representatives are Anglo males. So you see how important it is for the diversity of faces and people who look like us. I'm constantly making sure that language is considered. One thing that the Asian and Hispanic communities have that are similar is the challenges on languages. We have got to be able to communicate to all our riders, to all our communities in the language that they understand, whether it is Spanish or whether it's Korean. All right, so you have to have that ability. So I wanted to talk about bus service. So we underwent a seismic change. I like that word seismic, I said that a couple of times, but it is a wholesale review of how we do our bus system. All right. So what we implemented it in 2022, January, and it had been many years in the making. We wanted to increase frequency because increasing frequency increases ridership. And so that is what we did. But then again, pandemic hit. So obviously that had a huge impact on our ridership. If you're quarantined, most of us are not going to be able to be out there riding transit. So our ridership fell dramatically, as did all ridership across the nation. We're slowly building it back up. We're about 70% back to ridership pre-pandemic. But along with that came a kind of a crisis in our bus operators. We had a huge bus operator shortage of 133 open positions that occurred. And we would hire some, but we would lose more than we would hire. So that was a challenge. And what happened was we were missing bus rides. Okay, so because the bus operator would not show up, or they would quit, and we were unable to fill it. So we had a slight reduction in service in June, where we reduced it by 5 minutes for the most frequent bus routes. But I'm proud to say that on 7 routes, we reinstituted, restored our service. And January 23rd, this month, we're going to have a complete restoration of all our service on all of our bus routes. So we should be much better. But that's because we understand how important it is that our riders be able to depend on the dark. So we also came together and said, okay, our 3 priorities are cleanliness, safety, and dependability. We allocated another $110 million in November to make sure, extra, over and above our budget, to make sure that those 3 priorities are met. So one of the priorities is cleanliness. So we have clean teams. They're like SWAT teams that go around the rail cars and rail lines to clean and spot clean. That's an additional presence on the car. The more people on a rail car, the safer that it is, the more comfortable people feel. So you're going to see a lot of new improvements in the bus. We are looking at, we've done platform extensions, which has increased the platforms on our rail stations so we can run 3 cars instead of 2. That's a $128 million project that we've just finished, so we're very proud of that. We have 2 capital projects. One is the Silver Line, which is a 26-mile design-build commuter rail that's going to extend from Richardson into Terminal B. So you're going to have a northern corridor stretching actually from Richardson to Fort Worth because it's cross-corridor with Texas Rail. So you'll be able to go from Richardson to Fort Worth up north on the Silver Line. So that is something that is, east-west connections are very important, so I'm very excited about that. We have D2, which is our downtown subway, but because of the challenges in establishing what that alignment should be, we've had to take it out of line for capital infrastructure grants and do some more work on environmental impact studies, so that has been delayed, so that's unfortunate, but we are here to provide service. I'm here to answer whatever questions that you might have to the best of my ability. I may not be able to answer specific detailed questions, but I can get that answer for you. My email is mwkraus@dart.org. That's mwkraus@dart.org. Thank you. So I'm here for any questions that you might have. Okay, that guy and that guy. Yes, Mr. Blue Puffy Shirt.
Well, I think I went first.
Okay, go ahead.
David Espinosa from Grand Prairie.
Yeah.
Right here, the black.
Yes, I see.
Anthony.
What is your demographic breakdown of bus drivers? If for DART?
It's not stellar. It's not a good percentage. I'm pushing. I'm not exactly sure what the percentage is. All I know is that it's not where it should be. I am pushing for more Hispanic drivers because I want to see more Spanish-speaking bus drivers. I do know that our ridership of Hispanics as percentage of the total ridership is very low. It's, I think, like 8 to 10%. That, and you consider how much of Dallas is Hispanic, that's horrible. We need to make it more comfortable for our community to ride our buses, our trains.
And my second question is, what training do the bus drivers have? Because their driving is not very pleasant. And I say that because I work as a deputy constable and in the West Oak Cliff, West Dallas area, and their driving is not what it is, and you know, it's just, it's DART, it's respected, but what training or better training can they get to not drive so aggressively, I could probably say. But I'm not saying all drivers, I'm just saying specific, so I don't want anyone to get in trouble from what I have to say.
I'm not exactly sure the details of the training, but I know that they have intensive at the beginning of their job, intensive training, but they have continuing training throughout their job with DART. So if you have specifics and you can email me, I will make sure that gets to Bernard Jackson, who is our Chief of Operations, and get that looked at. Thank you.
Hi, sorry about that. I want to thank you for your time and for coming up on stage and answering questions. So I have a very specific question, and hopefully you can answer it. So as you probably know, DART is starting to think about building density around transit stations. And I was wondering, especially here in Oak Cliff, there's a lot of talk about bringing mixed-use development around train stations here. But I wonder if you have any data on the Mockingbird station, which is kind of similar to what they want to do as far as increased ridership on these dark rail stations. Because what most people fear in Oak Cliff is that they're going to build these things that aren't really affordable for our community. So I was wondering if you all have data that shows that there's an increase in ridership at Mockingbird station.
Well, we don't have, that is our top transit-oriented development site, TOD, which we don't have. I mean, we have some residential there, but I don't have the data on there, but it is so much easier and so much better to have density for transit, because it doesn't make sense to put transit where there's very low density and one person an hour rides it. You want to put transit where there is 100 people that are going to ride. And one of the things that drives that is mixed-use transit-oriented development. We are in the middle of having an intensive TOD project be completed. It was paused because of the pandemic, so we're going to have a lot more data once those are built. And there was a certain section of the residential part of that TOD development that is supposed to be for affordable housing.
So just to be clear, there is no data currently at the Mockingbird station?
I don't know of any data. That doesn't mean I can't get it to you if it exists. I'm just saying that those are modest buildings, and what we're looking at is much more residential being built right now. Right now, as we speak at Mockingbird Station, they're starting to back up since the pandemic. Again, MW Krause at dart.org for a specific question, and I can get you that data.
Thank you.
Sure.
Thank you. Hi there, I'm Yolanda. I live here in Oak Cliff. Thanks so much for coming out. I echo what Gio said. I just want to share that because our neighborhood was now, we had this long discussion through the West Oak Cliff area plan about building density in our neighborhood. And we just want to make sure, that there's responsible development and that we're not losing housing as a result. We actually believe that just because you build it doesn't mean they will come. And just because you build it and they come doesn't mean they're going to ride DART. So it's a big concern, and we would be very interested in data around that. My question is, as a neighborhood rep and neighborhood association, is we've got public art at our DART station that is severely in need of restoration. And I've been asking about it for 2 years. So I would really appreciate just for knowing from you who to follow up with directly, if there's a community relations person.
You can follow up with me, and I'll make sure it gets to the right person for them to get outreach back to you. Make sure you put all your contact information, and I will get someone to respond to you.
Okay, I appreciate that. It's woefully overdue for care. The second one, I'm really glad to hear that there's a cleanliness is one of the priorities. Our train station, there's a bus stop adjacent to it that is always really, really dirty. So again, I'd like to know how to reach out. So if there's a process for asking for extra cleanliness patrol.
I think there is something on the Go app, the DART app, that you can report things. One of the things that I thought I brought as an idea to operation was I think it would be great to have a QR code on bus stops and that you could hit it and say, hey, this bus stop needs work, it needs attention.
Well, believe me, I use Dart, I'm an avid user of Dart. And
We appreciate it.
I have called customer service and I've been hung up on, I've been disconnected, I've not been able to get a live person. So we try mucho pecho.
I am so sorry to hear that experience. That is not the quality of experience that Dart strives to provide. And again, please use my email. I am very responsive to all riders who reach out to me about Dart services.
Ms. Krause, thank you very much for being with us this morning. I want to return back to the issue that was raised by David Espinosa from Grand Prairie. With all the attention that we've paid to racial equity in this community and throughout the country, Hispanics are always left out of the equation in the discussion. Historically, DART has never represented or reflected the diversity of the population in North Texas. It's a historical matter. And now you as the chair of DART, and you as the chief policy maker, or the person who will implement policy, there at DART, perhaps it's time to do some kind of a task force to see how we're going to be able to make available the jobs that are at DART at all levels, not just in the bus situation. I know that's where most of the employees are at. But up and down, if you look at DART, you'll see that you're lacking in every category. And I don't think that's correct, because we pay taxes like anybody else. Our population dictates that we have an opportunity to these jobs. With 42 to 46% of the Dallas population and in the North Texas population, which is your target, I guess, your riders, I think DART has not done a good job over many, many years from its inception. Thank you.
All right, and I 100% agree with that. We have instituted extra outreach from hiring Delia Hassel to help us with that. Rosa Medina is the head of HR. We have really struggled in attracting Hispanic job applicants. Please reach out to your communities. Tell them DART is hiring. We have many job openings, but you've got to apply for it to be considered. And trust me, there is no one harder than pushing for more Hispanic representation throughout all levels of DART staffing than the Hispanic, the Dallas appointees. Because remember, we're only 8 out of 15. The city of Dallas only has 8 out of 15 on the board, so we can only bring so much diversity at the board level. Dallas brings it all. But we do, I promise you, do push for more Hispanic representation at all levels.
Well, again, in my opinion, DART has not done a good job in recruiting and retaining those that come in. And obviously, there's some problems there in terms of somebody wanting to work there. So you have to change that paradigm, people wanting to work there. I think one start would be, in particular, the Dallas Public Schools, where 74% of the student enrollment, to be able to apply to these jobs even at an early age, as soon as they're able to become drivers, so you can build that pipeline. The other one would be the community college district, where they could work part-time and also be going to college. There's ways that you can go and attract a recruitment pool, so that they can become someday even to be the director of DART. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much.
Hello?
Thank you. Thank you, Hector and David. Asked one of the questions, and it was about the majority and the quality of hiring. You asked us to contact you. Do you have that contact information that you could give us, your email and your phone number?
I don't know what my DART cell phone number is. I'm sorry. I can get that to you afterwards if I'll have a chance to look on my phone. But my email is mwkrause@dart.org.
Also, for marketing purposes and for hiring, I'd like to recommend my friend here, Echo Latino Radio, who does an excellent job in interviewing individuals, doing hiring and marketing. So I will give you her number. It's 214-228-5510. But we can exchange that, because it's very important to get the word out in the avenues where people are engaged in. And Echo Latino is very popular here in Oak Cliff and in the city of Dallas.
Okay, thank you so much, I appreciate that.
We got one more question from Ray.
Good morning y buenos días. My name is Renato de los Santos. I'm the director for the LULAC National Education Service Center here in Oak Cliff in Dallas. My question to you this morning is, first off, thank you for coming this morning to get our input and dialogue with us. But I know in the past you've had a Hispanic Advisory Committee, Outreach Committee. Could you give us an update on the status of that, or is that still in existence? And is that something that you would want to see come back to reach out to the community so we can accomplish what Hector Flores so eloquently stated that we need to do?
You know, I have never heard of the Hispanic Advisory Committee. It was not in existence when I came on the board. Right now, you have myself, Lee Ruiz, Flora Hernandez, Carmen Garcia. You have 4 Hispanics on the dartboard. And trust me, we make sure that our community is heard. We also have CAC, the Citizens Advisory Council. We have writers who advise us, and we strive for diversity at the CAC level. And I will check and find out what the racial breakdown is on the CAC, but that is also an excellent option, an opportunity for feedback by having Hispanics on that CAC.
Just to close my statement, I know that I have served in other advisory committees, Hispanic advisory boards and such, and we can serve a role of pushing the agenda within the organization. And so that the staff can say, look, they're pushing this, this is what they demand, this is what they're saying on behalf of the community. We can play that effective role, we can help you like that, but we need to handle things.
Absolutely understand. One more.
Mr. Grouse, good morning. I'm very happy that you're here. For me to state first why I'm here, I'm bilingual and bicultural. I worked as office coordinator for Chaplain's office for 17 years. I worked within Walgreens for 10 years and served in a bilingual bicultural capacity in both of those locations. My question for you this morning is, my last year over your change over the routes, I was capable of getting on one DART bus to go from a business on Cedar Springs to the Dallas Museum of Art. That's not what I'm talking to you about this morning. Last year, my registration for DART ambulance took me over the course of 6 months. I started out for a registration that ended in March. I started out 6 months previous of that, and I sent it by traceable mail, which I was informed because of COVID that the staff that would handle that would not go to the post office to get it. They said DART is so big that we're not going to do that. And so I had to learn what organization I could go to get it scanned and email it, which I did this year too. But another thing is too, I lost my landline phone because a DART transportation was late for an hour to my dental appointment with El Centro College. And the thing is, before you leave, if you could provide for me a forum where I can go above and beyond our guidelines to voice these concerns. And that's all I need, is for somebody to listen to them.
Listen to the Is that a paratransit? I'm not familiar with the term handy ride, so is that a different type of service? I'm familiar with paratransit, but what I can do is I'll stick around after this meeting and I will give you the name of Doug Douglas and his phone number, and I will call him and ask him to reach out to you. Okay, so sit tight and I will stick around.
That's all I need is somebody else here to talk to, because the people I talk to, I know they've heard me, I know they care, but it needs to go to an extra step. The lost phone was found by darn handy rights, but it had to be turned into darn. That never got connected. I ended up having to buy another phone, and I'm still learning how to use it. And people get frustrated with me because I don't know how to set up the voicemail or the text. I had a friend, because my tremors and retarded right shoulder, set up some contacts for me. But, I mean, you know, that event changed my life in essence. And I just need somebody to listen to that.
And I will make sure that that happens.
Thank you so much. And before we leave, if I can have a contact for Dark Handy Rides.
Yes, I'm gonna.
It says paratransit on the back.
Okay, I'm gonna meet with you afterwards and make sure that that happens.
Thank you so much, Michelle. One more round of applause for Michelle Walton. Thank you for that question, sir. Our next guest is Constable Michael Orozco out of Precinct 5. Doesn't sound like I need to say anymore, but Michael Orozco was appointed October 2018 by the Dallas County Commissioners Court to fill the vacated and unexpired term for the office of Dallas County Constable Precinct 5. On October 15th of 18, Mr. Orozco was sworn into office, bringing with him over 20 years of law enforcement experience in the constable's office. And perhaps most importantly, he's a U.S. Marine and a graduate of Woodrow Wilson High School out of DISD. Mr. Michael Orozco.
Thank you, Eric. Thank you so much. I want to thank Jamil Garcia, of course, for having me here this morning, and also the LULAC Council of 102. So it's been quite a while since I've been here. It's been 1 month shy of 5 years since I was here. So, got a lot to talk about, but I'm going to try to sum it up. But more importantly, back then I was a candidate. And in 2018, in February 2018, I stood here and I promised that if I was elected, that I promised that I would return professionalism, integrity, and efficiency back to the office of constable. We kept that promise. And I'm proud to say that we've been moving forward. Thank you. I also want to thank the constituents, the voters of Precinct 5 that did vote for me and that did put me in office. But equally important, I want to thank the ones that didn't vote for me, that stayed patient and waited to see and gave us the opportunity to prove ourselves. So when we took over in 2018, we hit the ground running. We implemented policies and procedures that increased productivity and efficiency throughout our office. But equally important, morale went through the roof. And I was so happy to see that we had a happy office. We had deputies, clerks that were happy to come to work and happy to leave and ready to get back to work the next day. So in saying that, I myself had a big job. We had a big job. We assembled a competent, professional, administrative staff. And one of the things that I first took initiative of doing was, we had, and I knew before I took office, we had many warrants that my predecessor had failed to put on the system. So I personally went down to our courts, and there were boxes, and I'm not kidding about that, boxes of warrants that had just been sitting there. I myself personally hand counted close to 10,000 warrants that had not been placed on the system. We put them on the system, and we started working them, and we continued to work them. We also had a property room that had stuff that had been sitting there since that office was created back in 1995. We had narcotics, contraband, but more importantly, there was handgun and long rifles that had been sitting there, and that was over 5 administrations. So what did? We did something kind of unique. We didn't go to a district judge to have a short order created. We reached out to forensics and we donated over 50 handguns and long rifles that are to this day being used for criminal justice investigative purposes. Thank you, thank you. And it's just phenomenal what innovation and just brainstorming of solutions that can be created to do stuff like that. We were hitting the ground, and then of course, the pandemic hit. And I knew at that moment, people were being forced to stay home. People were going to be out of jobs. But more importantly, you know, after the pandemic, it is what it is, but unfortunately, a lot of people in the state of Texas now know what the constable's office does. We're the ones that are slated with the responsibility of carrying out court orders, of having to evict people. So I took the initiative of reaching out to radio stations, going on social media, and educating people about their tenant rights. You know, one of the things I also did, I reached out to the Consulate General of Mexico here in Dallas. We set up an interview educating tenants about their rights when it comes to evictions. And so in the constable's office, what's unique about us, we're a specialized law enforcement agency, and we enforce both criminal and civil law, right? But I want to highlight a couple of things that people need to know about your eviction rights as a tenant. So for example, I knew that during COVID, we were going to have managers and landlords that were going to begin to illegally evict tenants. What do I mean by that? Changing locks. All right? And we had a plethora of calls coming in. What can we do? Is there a solution? Of course, there's a remedy. You can go to your local JP court and file for what's called a writ of re-entry. And it's a court order signed by the judge that commands us to go out to the location of where that tenant resident was locked out. And we basically go over there and tell them under court order, hey, you really need to let this tenant back in, or there are going to be repercussions that can occur with you. What are those repercussions? If they fail to allow that tenant to come back in, they can be held in contempt of court. Another well-known tactic a lot of landlords or management companies like to do to try to get tenants to be removed from that place, they turn off the utilities. Well, guess what? There's a remedy for that as well. You can go to your local JP court and file for what's called a writ of restoration. And basically, that's another court order where we go out there and tell the landlord or management company, hey, you really, really, really need to turn those utilities back on. And if they don't, likewise, they can be held in contempt of court. There's so many things I don't want to talk about. I wrote my thing. Oh, another thing that I want to focus on. When I first took office, this was one of my main objectives and goals to do. I don't know if any of you knew this, but in 2018, when I took office, not one constable precinct in all of Dallas County had body cameras. Unbelievable. You know, in this day and age, in 2018, we're, I would say, the 11th largest county in the United States, and this law enforcement agency didn't have body cameras. I'm a big believer on transparency, but more importantly, accountability. And it is what it is. Because of those body cameras, we no longer have a deputy employed in our office. So it's stuff like that that I want you to know that we're here to look out for the citizens, but more importantly, we want to have accountability for our deputies as well. So, you know, with COVID, we continued on. We also, we did the first ever eviction clinic in North Texas. What's an eviction clinic? Well, let me tell you about this. there were so many organizations out there that developed over COVID that obviously they all want to help. You had the Yonder Way, you had one organization that helps veterans, you had another organization that helps the hearing impaired. So what did we do? We saw that there was a need to put all these people together to collaborate. And it not only wasn't for the tenants, but it was for the landlords as well, because, you know, let's be fair, that landlords, some of them have mortgages to pay, and without that rent flow coming in, well, they get foreclosed on, and ultimately runs down, and tenants can be displaced and felt homeless. So we put these different organizations together, and it was a great organization. And the great news about it was, it's been replicated already in some of our major counties across the state of Texas. So we're real proud about being the forerunners that came up with the idea, and that it's to see that it's been being implemented throughout the state of Texas. We also care in our office. We deal a lot with protective orders.